"I didn't lie, I just didn't tell you," she said when I found out about the trip with her ex. So I told her nothing when I left. Now she's wondering where it all went wrong. Hey viewers, before we move on to the video, please make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button if you want to see more stories like this. Thanks. I used to think that honesty was the simplest thing in the world. You either told the truth or you didn't. It wasn't a spectrum. There weren't footnotes or exceptions. At least that's how I lived my life. Maya was different. She had a way of bending words until they worked in her favor. Like reality was just another marketing pitch. Maybe that should have been my first clue. She worked in marketing after all, always spinning things to sound prettier than they were. When we met 3 years ago, she was this bright, quick-witted woman who made everything feel alive. I was the quiet one, the grounded one. She used to tell me that's what she loved about me, that I made her feel safe. I didn't realize until much later that safe was just another word for temporary in her vocabulary. Our life together wasn't flashy, but it was steady. I cooked dinner most nights. She'd talk about her day. We'd watch a show, go for walks on weekends, simple things. The kind of life I thought meant something. Lately, though, I'd started noticing small changes. She'd turn her phone over whenever I walked by. The late-night texts that she claimed were just the group chat. The way she laughed a little too hard at messages she never showed me. I tried to tell myself it was nothing. We were both busy, stressed, drifting a bit. It happens. Then came the work trip. She told me about it on a Tuesday evening while scrolling through her emails. "Marketing retreat," she said casually, like she'd mentioned it before. "It's next weekend. My team's flying out to Denver for some brand workshop thing." I remember asking how long it'd be. She didn't look up. "4 days. Don't worry, I'll still call you at night." There was something rehearsed about the way she said it, like she was answering questions she expected me to ask. I almost brought it up, but I didn't want to be that guy, the paranoid boyfriend. So I kissed her forehead, told her to have fun, and went back to my laptop. The morning she left, I drove her to the airport. She kissed me on the cheek and said, "You're the best, you know that?" I smiled, pretending not to notice she hadn't said, "I love you." That weekend, I tried not to think about it. I hung out with friends, watched the game, kept busy. On the third night, I opened Instagram to check a mutual friend's story. Sophie, one of Maya's co-workers. There she was, Maya, not at a workshop or a team dinner. She was on a rooftop bar, laughing, holding a drink. And next to her, arm draped around her chair like he belonged there, was Ryan, her ex. The caption read, "United Crew." My chest went cold. I stared at the screen for a long time before locking my phone. It wasn't the photo that hurt the most. It was the calm certainty that settled in afterward. The quiet, heavy realization that this wasn't an accident. She'd planned every word of that lie, and I hadn't seen it coming. When Maya came back from her work retreat, she was glowing. That was the first thing I noticed. Her skin had that sun-touched look, her hair styled differently, and she walked into the apartment like she'd just been on vacation, not a business trip. "Hey," she said cheerfully, dropping her suitcase by the door. "Miss me?" I smiled faintly. "Yeah, how was Denver?" She shrugged, pouring herself some water. "Productive long days, but good team building. You know how it is." I just nodded. She didn't notice the way I was watching her, how every word she said was being quietly weighed in my head. After she showered and unpacked, we sat on the couch. She leaned into me, scrolling through her phone. I waited. My stomach was tight, but my voice came out calm. "So how's Ryan doing these days?" She froze just a second too long before looking up. "What?" I met her eyes. "Ryan, your ex, the one from that rooftop bar in Denver." Her phone slipped slightly in her hand. "What are you talking about?" "Sophie posted a photo. You and Ryan were there. Looked like a fun time." The silence stretched thick and fragile. Then she sighed, rolling her eyes like I was the one being dramatic. "Ethan, seriously, that was nothing. He just happened to be there. We ran into him by chance. I didn't say anything, just watched her twist the story in real time. She kept going. We were all catching up. It wasn't a big deal. I didn't think I needed to mention it. You didn't think you needed to mention seeing your ex while on a trip you told me was for work? Her tone sharpened. Oh my God, Ethan, don't start. I didn't lie to you. I just didn't tell you because I knew you'd overreact like this. There it was, the line that would burn into my brain. I sat back slowly. You didn't lie, you just didn't tell me. She nodded, exasperated. Exactly, thank you. Finally you get it. No, I said quietly, and I don't think I do. Her frustration grew. You're acting like I cheated or something. It was one drink, Ethan. One. We talked, that's it. Why are you blowing this out of proportion? I looked at her. The same woman I'd loved for 3 years, and all I saw was distance. Like she was already somewhere else, talking to someone else. You said it was a work retreat, I said. You planned a whole cover story for something you knew I'd question. That's not an accident, Maya. That's a decision. She crossed her arms, defensive. You're impossible. I can't even have a conversation without you twisting it. Maybe if you trusted me, we wouldn't be having this issue. I stood up, calm but detached. Trust goes both ways. You can't hide things and then blame me for not trusting you. Her voice softened, almost pleading. Ethan, please don't do this. It was innocent. I missed being around people who knew me before everything got so serious, before life became routine. I wanted to believe her. God, a part of me did. But the moment she said I didn't lie, something shifted inside me. It wasn't anger. It was clarity. I realized that she didn't see truth the way I did. To her, it was something you edited, not something you lived. So I just nodded. All right. She looked confused. All right, that's it? Yeah, I said softly. You didn't lie. You just didn't tell me. She blinked, unsure whether I was agreeing with her or mocking her. Then I went to the bedroom, closed the door, and sat there in silence, staring at the half-packed suitcase in my closet. Because I already knew what was coming next. After that conversation, something in me went quiet. Not the kind of silence that comes from anger or punishment. It was deeper than that. It was the silence that comes when you realize a bridge has already burned and you're just standing in the smoke waiting for it to settle. Maya, on the other hand, seemed convinced that everything was fine. The next morning, she acted normal, kissed me on the cheek before work, texted me a meme at lunch, asked what I wanted for dinner. It was like the conversation never happened. I went along with it for a while. I responded politely, smiled when I needed to, even watched a movie with her that night. But something in my chest felt hollow. Every word she said echoed with that same tone from before. I didn't lie, I just didn't tell you. She thought she'd solved the problem by ignoring it. But what she didn't realize was that I'd already stopped fighting for it. Over the next week, I started to pull back slowly, quietly, methodically. When she talked, I listened less. When she touched me, I didn't reach back. My responses became shorter. I wasn't cold, just distant enough that she noticed. Are you okay? She asked one evening as we sat on the couch. Yeah, I said, just tired. Work? Yeah. She studied me for a second, trying to read me. You've been quiet lately. I guess I have. She frowned but let it go, probably assuming it had pass. But it wasn't going to. I'd made a decision. I just hadn't told her yet. I started moving things out one piece at a time. First, my spare laptop, then a few shirts, then the old duffel bag with my tools. I told her I was taking stuff to the office to declutter. She didn't question it. Every night when she'd fall asleep, I'd sit in the living room looking around at the apartment we'd built together. The framed photos, the fake plant she insisted on buying, the throw blanket she loved, all of it felt like props from someone else's life. I thought about how easy it had been for her to hide something so deliberate behind a smile. How easily she'd twisted the truth until she could live with it. I realized that I didn't want to spend another year wondering what else she wasn't telling me. A few days later, she made dinner, pasta with garlic bread, and put on music. She was trying. I'll give her that. Halfway through eating, she leaned forward. Ethan, can we just move past this? She asked. I hate feeling like you're still mad. I'm not mad, I said. Then what? I'm just done. She laughed, confused. Done with what? with pretending. Her smile faltered. You're being weird lately. Did something happen? I met her eyes. You happened. For a moment, she looked genuinely hurt. But then her expression hardened. You're really going to throw everything away because I didn't tell you about one stupid drink? I didn't answer. I just got up, took my plate to the sink, rinsed it, and left it there. That night, I stayed awake beside her, staring at the ceiling while she slept peacefully next to me, completely unaware that I was already gone. In the morning, I packed the rest of my things. Not all of them, just enough to start over. I didn't leave a note. I didn't send a message. I figured she'd understand eventually. After all, I didn't lie. I just didn't tell her. Maya didn't realize I was gone until early afternoon. I know because she called at 1:17 p.m. 3 missed calls, then a text. Hey, where are you? Thought you were working from home today. Then another. Did you take your stuff somewhere? Half your closet's empty. And then the one that told me she finally understood. Ethan, what the hell is going on? I didn't reply. I was already in my new place. Bowie. A small one-bedroom I'd found 2 weeks earlier under the guise of needing a quiet spot to focus. The landlord didn't even ask for references. He just handed me the keys and told me to enjoy the peace. It felt fitting. When Maya showed up that evening, I wasn't surprised. She had that same sharp energy I'd seen when she was caught in a lie. Part panic, part defiance. She knocked hard at first, then started ringing the doorbell over and over. I opened the door halfway, calm as I could manage. Can we talk? She demanded, stepping forward like she owned the place. I blocked the doorway. About what? She stared at me like I'd lost my mind. What do you mean about what? You disappeared. You moved out without saying anything. I didn't disappear, I said quietly. I left. That's not the same thing. It is to me. She threw her hands up. Ethan, this is insane. You're acting like I cheated or something. I didn't. You know I didn't. I know, I said. You just lied by omission, right? That's what you called it. Her face twisted in frustration. Oh my God, are you really doing this? Over one drink? You're seriously that insecure? That word insecure landed like a punch. Not because it was true, but because it was the same word she'd used to justify everything she did that crossed a line. Every time she texted her ex innocently. Every time she made plans behind my back because she didn't want to deal with my reaction. I wasn't insecure, I was exhausted. You know, I said, leaning against the doorframe, you've been telling yourself that for so long you actually believe it. That you're the logical one and everyone else is just overreacting. She scoffed. You're being dramatic. Maybe, or maybe I finally see things clearly. Her tone shifted. She softened, tried to sound gentle. Ethan, come on, you're not thinking straight. We can fix this. I didn't mean to hurt you, okay? I just didn't want to make things awkward at work. You would have been mad if I told you. That's the point, I said. You decided how I should feel before I even had a chance to. She looked away, her jaw tightening. So what now? You're just done? That's it? Yeah, after everything we've been through, especially after everything we've been through. Her eyes started to gloss over, and for a second I almost wavered. But then I remembered the look on her face when she'd said, I didn't lie. I just didn't tell you. She hadn't been sorry. She'd been smug, proud of her loophole. I don't understand you, she said quietly. You're really throwing this away? No, I said. You threw it away. I'm just walking out of the ashes. She stared at me for a long moment, her mouth trembling between anger and disbelief. Then she stepped back, arms crossed tightly across her chest. You're making a mistake, she muttered. Maybe, I said, but it's mine to make. I closed the door gently before she could reply. I stood there for a while, listening to her footsteps fade down the hallway, followed by the sound of her car starting. For the first time in months, I felt something that almost scared me. Peace. No shouting, no explaining, no mental gymnastics, just quiet. Later that night, she texted me again. I can't believe you actually left. You're not even giving me a chance. I didn't respond. Then another. If you just talked to me, you'd see I never meant to hurt you. Still nothing. And finally, you'll regret this when you realize no one else will ever love you like I did. That one made me smile because for once she was right. I didn't want anyone to love me like that ever again. The first week after I left, she went silent. No calls, no texts, no social media posts, just nothing. And honestly, it was exactly what I needed. I went to work, came home to my quiet apartment, cooked simple meals, and started sleeping through the night again. There was no tension, no second-guessing every word I said, no wondering what she wasn't telling me, just peace. But of course, peace never lasts long when someone like Maya is involved. It started with a message from one of our mutual friends. Someone she'd never expected to still talk to me. "Hey man, just a heads up. Maya's been posting some stuff online, you might want to check." Against my better judgment, I did. There she was, looking perfectly composed, wine glass in hand. Captioned, "Sometimes you have to let insecure men remove themselves so real love can find you." Another post the next day. "I don't owe explanations to people who only hear what they want." And then one with a selfie and the caption, "Healing era, boundaries, energy, growth." Classic Maya rewriting the story before it even finished. I didn't comment, didn't block her, didn't even like the posts. I just let her talk into the void. A few days later, though, her tone changed. The posts got less confident. One said, "It's funny how people can walk away like you never meant anything." Another, "Some people will regret losing you. Maybe not today, but one day." Then one night around midnight, she texted me, "Hey, I know you probably don't want to talk, but I just wanted to say I'm sorry for how things ended." I stared at it for a while before replying simply, "It's okay. I'm not angry." She responded almost instantly, "You sound so cold." "Just calm," I wrote back. "Can we meet just to talk? There's nothing left to talk about." She didn't like that. Her next message came through in a burst. "You're acting like I cheated or something. I made one mistake. You could have at least tried." "I did," I replied for a long time. That was the last text I sent her. The next few weeks were strange. She'd swing between anger and nostalgia. One day she'd message something bitter. "You're not as perfect as you think." The next, she'd send something sentimental like, "I miss waking up next to you." I never replied to any of them. And as she spiraled, I started rebuilding. Slowly but intentionally, I focused on work, reconnected with friends I'd neglected because Maya always found them annoying, and picked up running again. My boss even noticed the change and offered me a project lead position. The same one I'd turned down months ago because Maya said it would take too much of my time away from us. It hit me then how much of myself I'd given up to keep her comfortable. 2 months after the breakup, I ran into her by accident at a cafe near downtown. I didn't even recognize her at first. Her hair was shorter. She looked tired, like she'd been burning herself out trying to prove she was okay. She spotted me before I could leave. "Ethan." "Hey, Maya." We stood there in that awkward silence that only exists between two people who used to know everything about each other. "You look good," she said, her tone careful, rehearsed. "Thanks, you too." She hesitated, then laughed lightly. "So you just never planned to talk to me again?" I didn't see the point. "That's cold." "No," I said, "it's final." She blinked at that like she didn't know how to respond. "I thought we meant more than that." "We did," I said, "but meaning something doesn't make it right." Her lips parted, but nothing came out. For the first time since I'd known her, she didn't have an answer. After a few seconds, she sighed. "You really don't miss me at all." I thought about it. About our laughter, the road trips, the late-night talks, then about the lies, the manipulation, the constant half-truths. "I miss the idea of you," I said finally, "not the reality." That one hit her. She just nodded, forcing a small smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Well," she said quietly, "I hope you're happy." "I am," I told her. And for once, it wasn't something I had to convince myself of. She turned to leave, and as she walked away, I felt nothing. No anger, no sadness, no longing, just relief. Later that night, I saw another post on her page. "Sometimes losing someone is the only way to realize how replaceable you really were to them." I didn't react because she was wrong. She wasn't replaceable, just removable. And that's exactly what I'd done. 6 months. That's how long it took for everything to come full circle. By that point, I'd built a life that finally felt like mine again. My apartment didn't echo anymore. I'd filled it with music, books, and plants I never thought I'd keep alive. My mornings weren't heavy, my nights weren't silent. I wasn't waiting for texts that never came or decoding vague captions online. I was just living. It's amazing how calm life feels when no one is constantly testing your patience under the excuse of that's just who I am. Then one Friday afternoon, as I was leaving the office, my phone buzzed. A text from a number I hadn't seen in months. "Hey, can we please talk? Just 5 minutes, it's important. Maya." I didn't respond. But curiosity got the better of me when another message came through seconds later. "Please, Ethan, I just need to see you. I'm at that coffee shop we used to go to." I could have ignored it. I probably should have. But some part of me wanted to see her. Not to rekindle anything, but to see what remained of the person who once made me question my worth. When I walked in, she was sitting at our old table by the window, nursing a half-empty cup. She looked smaller somehow. Not physically, just deflated. "Hey," I said, taking the seat across from her. She looked up and smiled weakly. "You said 5 minutes," I said. "What's this about?" She bit her lip, looked down, then back at me. "I'm not going to lie, things haven't been great." I stayed silent. "Ryan," she started, then stopped. "Well, that ended. Turns out he's not who I thought he was." I nodded slowly. "They usually aren't." Her face tightened. I know I hurt you, and I know I don't deserve anything from you. But I can't stop thinking about how we were before all this. How you treated me. How you made me feel safe." There it was. Safe. The same word she'd used when she first described me to her friends. The same word she'd used right before she traded me for excitement. "Maya," I said quietly, "you didn't want safe. You wanted validation. You wanted to chase whatever felt new just to prove you could still get it." "That's not fair," she said, her voice trembling slightly. "Maybe not, but it's true." She looked down at her cup again. "I just thought maybe we could start over. Go slow. I've changed." I leaned back, watching her carefully. "You said the same thing to him, didn't you?" Her eyes flicked up, wide. "What?" "When you got back together with Ryan, you told yourself you'd changed, that it would work this time. How'd that turn out?" Her lips parted, but she didn't answer. She didn't have to. "I'm not saying this to hurt you," I continued. "I just think you confuse regret with growth. Missing something isn't the same as becoming better." She blinked like the words physically stung. "So that's it? You really don't want to even try?" "Maya, you burned the bridge," I said, calm and even. "And then you stood there waiting for me to swim back." She laughed softly, a hollow, shaky sound. "You sound different, colder." "No," I said, "just clear." She wiped at her eyes quickly, as if embarrassed. "I thought if I apologized, you'd, I don't know, remember how good we were." "I do remember," I said. "That's exactly why I won't go back." Silence settled between us. Long, heavy, final. She looked out the window, nodding slowly, like she was finally realizing something that had been obvious to everyone but her. "You really moved on, huh?" she said quietly. "Yeah," I said. "I had to." She gave a small, sad smile. "I'm happy for you. I mean that." "I hope you figure things out too," I said. "For your own sake." When I stood up to leave, she didn't stop me. She just looked up with this faint, lost expression. Like she was seeing the version of me she'd thrown away and realizing there was no way back to him. That was the last time I ever saw Maya. A few weeks later, I heard through a friend that she'd quit her job, that she'd moved back in with her sister for a while. The healing era posts stopped completely, and I didn't feel satisfaction, just distance, because her downfall wasn't mine to celebrate. Her life wasn't my concern anymore. Mine had already moved forward. The promotion I took turned into a leadership role. I started mentoring younger guys at work, some going through breakups, some just trying to figure out who they were outside of relationships. Funny how life circles back like that. One of them asked me recently, "How do you know when you're over someone?" I told him, "When their name feels like a memory, not a trigger." And that's where I am now. Maya is just a name I used to say a lot. A story I lived through once. If she ever tells it, I'm sure she'll spin it her way. how I gave up too easily or how I changed after she left. But I know the truth. I didn't change. I just stopped accepting less than what I gave. Sometimes I scroll back through old photos, not to reminisce, but to remind myself of how far I've come since then. Because the best part of walking away isn't proving them wrong. It's finally being free from needing to. That's the real peace. And peace, once you find it, makes every lie, every heartbreak, every sleepless night worth it. Thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button. What do you think about this story? Share it in the comments.